Managers could be sure that every plan they made and every task they assigned would be perfectly executed, they really wouldn't need to control. All the results could be expected to be as planned with no unpleasant surprises. But things rarely go this smoothly. Most plans are executed by people, and people vary widely in abilities, motivation, and even honesty. In today's fast changing business environment, who can assume that the plan themselves might not suddenly become outdated? So, even the validity of the plans themselves and the results originally desired must be mentioned and controlled. The managers aim to have no unpleasant surprises, and so the manager has to be sure he or she can make a timely response. And when it comes to being able to take timely action, some controls are more timely than others. For example, experts distinguish between steering controls, that is, yes no controls, and post action controls. With steering controls, corrective action is taken before the operation or project has been completed. In the same way, most managers set intermediate milestones so that they can check progress long before a project is to be completed. If a problem is found, it can be corrected in no time to save the project. A yes or no control means work work may not proceed it's until it passes an intermediate control step. For example, most companies have a rule forbidding employees from entering into contract with suppliers or customers unless the agreements have been approved ahead of time by the firm's legal staff. Yes or no controls have to head off problems before they occur. Post-action controls are ones in which results are compared to standard after the project has been finished. Budgets are examples of post-action controls, as are the end of terms grades students receive. The problem with post-action controls, as with grades, is that you usually can't do much to remedy the situations once the time period is over and the results are in. Most managers try to build in the timeliness provided by steering controls, such as by monitoring weekly or monthly performance reports. This can help identify problems before they get out of hand. Since managing involves planning, organizing, leading, and controlling, one might easily get the impression that maintaining control is just something managers do after they are finished planning, organizing, and leading, but in fact, nothing could be further further from the truth. Controlling always requires that some dis- desirable outcomes like targets, standards, or goals be set so that the word planning is almost always used along with the word control. Similarly, how to control is often an underlying concern with decisions are made regarding how to organize. Similarly, which of what managers do when they have their leadership hats on involves make sure that employees are doing and will do the things they are supposed to do. Close supervision, literally monitoring each and everything employees do, is certainly one way to accomplish that. However, today the sort of self-motivation that derives from empowering teams and putting them in charge is often the better alternative. What is the best way to stay in control? Their basic operations, that is, traditional and commitment based control methods. Let's look at each. The traditional control process. What is the first thing you think of when someone mentions the word control? Chances are you think of someone exerting influence to ensure that some person or group is doing what he or she is supposed to do. When most people think of control, in other words, they generally think of some kind of external process that's someone used to keep a person's behavior in line. Whether you are controlling your neighbor down the block or the sales team at your company, control traditionally includes three steps. Number one is establishing a standard goal or target so that you know in advance what the results ought to be. Number two, using some type of external monitoring system such as personal observation or the budget to compare actual performance to that standard. Number three, taking corrective action if necessary to get the actual performance in line with what was planned. Then there is commitment based control. As companies expand worldwide and compete in fast changing markets, the problems of relying on traditional controls like budgets have become increasingly apparent. Problems like these were not and probably could not have been anticipated with the traditional controls, particularly today when markets change quickly and more employees are empowered. Managers need a way to ensure that their employees won't let activities slip out of control, or that if they do, the managers will the manager will discover discover it before catastrophe strikes. A fundamental problem facing managers is how to exercise adequate control in organizations that demand flexibility, innovation, and creativity. In most organizations operating in dynamic and higher competitive markets, managers cannot spend all their time and effort making sure that everyone is doing what is expected. Nor is it realistic to think that managers can achieve control by simply hiring good people, aligning incentives, and hoping for the best. Contrarily, today's managers must encourage employees to initiate process improvements and new ways of responding to customers' needs, but in a controlled way. Companies are therefore increasingly relying on employees' commitment and self control to keep things under control. One sign of this is widespread use of self-managing teams, wherein employees are given the self-confidence, tools, training, and information they need to do their job if they own the firm. The idea here is that the best way to keep things on track is to get the employees to want to do so. This leaves us with two basic ways to maintain control. While any classification scheme is bound to be somewhat arbitrary, we can conveniently distinguish between traditional control systems and commitment-based control systems. Traditional control systems based on setting standards and then monitoring performance. These systems include three categories of controls, that is diagnostic controls, boundary systems, and interactive controls. Diagnostic control systems such as budgets allow managers to determine whatever important targets have been met and if necessary to figure out why they haven't been. And boundary control systems are policies that identify the boundaries within which employees are to operate. Ethical rules against accepting gifts from suppliers are an example. Interactive control systems involve controlling employees interactively by questioning them face to face. Next is commitment-based control systems rely on getting the employees themselves to want to do things right. They emphasize self-control, in other words. For example, companies like Toyota and Sassoon sorry, work hard to specialize all employees in the company's belief systems and values, such as the importance of teamwork, quality, and respect for people, to foster self control. The employees then are more inclined to control their own actions. Other companies emphasize systems for building commitment to being what is best for the company and doing it right. Log on to my website www.asifjmeer.com. I also ask you to visit my blog at asifjmeer.wordpress.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your time and have a wonderful day.